We ask you, Lord, just to give us your guidance and your leadance and direction. Lord, as we begin to talk of the affairs of the parish and our businesses and our industries, we ask you to give us your wisdom from above that only comes from you. We ask you to bless the food that's here today, touch those that have not. Truly, we do give you gratitude. In your most gracious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. At this time, I'd like to call on our treasurer, Alyssa Cart, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Again, we'd like to thank everyone for joining us for today's luncheon. Next month, we will host the post-session legislative breakfast with Senator Robert Allen and State Representatives Beryl Amadei and Vincent Vinnie St. Blanc. Please refer to the Chamber News Blast next Monday for details regarding the event. I would like to introduce our head table. From your left to right, Laura Meadows. She is the immediate past chairwoman. Dr. Brian Roberts, the CEO of LUMCON ANERR. Myself, Brady Burrell, the vice chairman. Beth Chasson, the chamber president. And Alyssa Cart, the treasurer. At this time, I would like to thank our elected officials and special guests for taking time out of their busy schedules to attend this luncheon. Sarah Dake, Acadiana Regional Representative for U.S. Senator John Kennedy. Christian Bergeron, a District Rep for Congressman Garrett Graves. Dina Vial, the District Rep, or maybe he's not here, I'm sorry. Morgan City Mayor Lee Dragna. Chief Administrative Officer Charlie Solar, Mayor Duval Arthur for the town of Berwick, also Councilwoman Colleen Askew, and Assistant Chief of Police J.P. Henry, Dr. Jay Kloon, the President of Nichols State University, Lisa Kleibert, the Bayou Region Incubator Executive Director, and Anthony Baham with SOLA CC. Also from Fletcher Technical Community College, we have Monique Crochet and Dr. Carrie Cortez. If you can give them a round of applause for being with us today. Today's luncheon sponsors are featured CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South. In addition to our annual elite sponsors, Bayou Bend Health System, Intimore, and Omega Waste Management. Please welcome Dr. Darrell Soleil with the CIS to say a few words.
Well, good afternoon. I would like to thank the Chamber for providing us with this opportunity to sponsor today's luncheon. And I'm especially delighted to share the podium with Louisiana University's Marine Consortium today at LUMCON. You know, the construction of LUMCON was completed in 1986 when I was starting my senior year at South Carolina High School. Go Gators! I was always had a really strong interest in science. So when this beautiful state-of-the-art facility opened in my backyard, I just knew that I wanted to be a part of it. I mean, I grew up down in Dulac, and LUMCON is in Cocodrie. It was just a 20-minute drive away. So this eager 17-year-old picked up the phone one fall day and simply asked if someone might be able to help me with a science fair project. I was paired with Dr. Diane Gifford, an oceanographer and marine scientist, whose area of interest was zooplankton, the animal component of the mostly microscopic plankton community. So we met. She helped me design a project called, get this, the feeding behavior and egg production of the marine copepod Acarcia tanza. Yeah. Quite a mouthful, right? Okay. So these little guys that we were studying, I mean, essentially, they are the base of the marine biological food chain. Thanks to her guidance, I won grand prize at school and parish science fairs, and I was runner-up grand prize at state. And I was offered an invitation to compete in the International Science Fair in San Juan, Puerto Rico because of that as well. Needless to say, I was hooked on the field of marine biology and marine research, even though I still had this nagging thought someday of becoming a physician. The PhDs associated with LUMCON, they would always rib me and say things like, why would you want to go to medical school? You need to go to school to become a real doctor. Get your PhD. And plus, they always talked about spending all of this time out on the water in the great outdoors and going on these 3 to 7 day research cruises. You know, that's right, cruises. I mean, you know, you've all seen the pictures, right? I mean, balcony staterooms and, you know, the promenade deck and, you know, unlimited, you know, food and cocktails. Well, not exactly. You see, after my whirlwind success in the state science fair arena, I asked for and was offered a job as a lab tech at LUMCON. I had the opportunity to go on these mystical research cruises where we worked collecting water samples around the clock, every hour on the hour for days on end, rain or shine, waves or no waves. And I tell you what, there were no balcony staterooms, and there were no cocktails. However, I made friendships that will last forever. We did great work to better understand and preserve our oceans, and it provided the gateway for me to excel in the sciences and make my way to medical school, and ultimately become the medical director of our cardiology clinic for the Cardiovascular Institute of the South here in Morgan City, Louisiana. So I've been here for 13 years and thoroughly enjoy being an integral part of the medical community as we care for our patients in our clinic and at Oxford St. Mary, where we provide 24/7 cardiology coverage. It's an honor to be able to bring world-class cardiovascular care to the region. I have an incredible staff who care deeply for our patients, and they go above and beyond every single day. We have all the essential diagnostic modalities available in our office. We treat, you know, all kinds of heart disease, coronary disease, peripheral arterial disease, heart failure, blood pressure problems, cholesterol problems, rhythm issues, just to name a few. And my special area of interest is valvular heart disease, where we can now do valve replacements and valve repairs through tiny incision in the groin, where the patients will come in and into the hospital, they go home the next day, rather than having to do open heart surgery where the recovery is, you know, 3 months or so. Plus, we're involved in over 30 clinical trials as well. You know, I really love my patients, even when they don't follow my advice and take the medications that I prescribe. Some will say, Doc, I'd rather die fat and happy than have a long life being skinny, only wishing I wouldn't have passed up on all the fried seafood, rice and gravy, and sweet potato pie. And on the other hand, I have some patients who, you know, they exercise 5 days a week, they run marathons, they follow the Mediterranean diet to the T and do everything they're supposed to do. Albeit, if I'm being honest, that's a very, very small percentage of my patients in my clinic. But nonetheless, we love them all, and we love being a part of this community. And thanks again for the opportunity to sponsor today's luncheon.
Thank you, Dr. Darrell Soleil. Thank you to all of our sponsors for their continued support of the Chamber. We would simply cease to function without you. At this time, I would like to honor a very special person. So many times, administrative assistants are taken for granted and don't realize how important they really are. Each month, the Chamber honors one of these special people who help make the workday run smoothly. This month, we honor Ms. Nicole Bonan with Accounting Software Concepts. Ms. Nicole, please come forward to receive your plaque. Would you like to say something? Congratulations, Ms. Nicole Bonan. Next, we would like to honor the May Business of the Month. This year marks 65 years this locally owned and operated business has been a staple in our community. With resilience, this company has overcome the adversities in our economy, consistently supports the Chamber, and is active in community engagement. Without further ado, congratulations, Watson's Discount Furniture Warehouse. Due to unforeseen circumstances, they could not attend today's luncheon. However, we will stop by and present their award later this week. So maybe if they're watching, let's give them a round of applause. I would now like to introduce the speaker for today's luncheon. Please hold your questions until the conclusion of his speech. Appointed by the Louisiana Board of Regents in 2023, Dr. Brian Roberts serves as the Executive Director and Chief Scientist of Louisiana University's Marine Consortium. Dr. Roberts received his PhD in ecology and evolutionary biology from Cornell University in 2004. His MA in marine biology from the Boston University Marine Program in 1996, and his Bachelor of Science in Biology and Philosophy from the College of William and Mary in 1995. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Brian Roberts.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to thank the great introduction to LUMCON. Can you hear me okay with this here?
Actually, is this mic here?
Well, yeah, I've got one on my,
That's for medium, one of the cameras. This
okay,
is for the
so,
crowd. Yes.
so I can't move around. Okay,
You can
we'll,
also-
we'll see how that works. If you tie my hands behind my back, I can't talk at all.
You can also hold it if you like.
No, because I really gotta hold this. All right, now 5 minutes down to my talk, we'll get started. It's a great pleasure to be able to talk with you today. I wanted to give an overview of LUMCON. We had this great introduction, but LUMCON is a really unique institution. One of the things that really drew me to come to the state of Louisiana was LUMCON itself. And we have a mission that was created in the legislature in 1979 to promote marine research and education for all in the state of Louisiana. And we've created a series of statements to try to embody what it is that LUMCON is all about. And so we're thinking about our thriving coast in the future is what we're trying to do. And we have this tagline of connect, enrich, transform. And so we connect by enhancing collaboration, by linking all of the consortium members in our consortium to build stronger federal, state, and local partnerships. We enrich by giving back to the community through education outreach initiatives. And we transform by leading and partnering scientific innovation to strengthen our coastal environments and what we know about them for the state as well as the nation. LUMCON is very unique. So we are actually a program of the Louisiana Board of Regents. So my direct boss is the Commissioner of Higher Education, Dr. Kim Hunter-Reed. We're also a consortium of all 32 public post-secondary institutions in the state and the 10 members institutions of the Louisiana Association of Independent Colleges and Universities. So we're actually a consortium of 42 institutions in the state of Louisiana. Many people don't know this. We have more four-year state institutions per capita than any state in the country, which means that you don't have to go very far to get to your nearest four-year institution. We also have an amazing technical community college system. And then what makes us really unique is the fact that we also include the independent colleges and universities. So we are a physical and statewide resource that's located on the coast. And the way I like to think about LUMCON, in addition to being this consortium, is that we have our science and research programs, we have our education outreach programs, we have the state's research vessel fleet, as was alluded to before, and we have the state's dive operations. We also have facilities and resources. We're located uniquely on the coast. And then we have two affiliates. One is that we are the state partner in a federal state partnership with EPA for the Barataria-Terrebonne National Estuary Program. And what we'll be talking about at the end is that we will be the state partner once that gets designated as the Atchafalaya National Estuary and Research Reserve, which is a partnership with the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration. We have currently, as of this week, we have our 8th faculty in residence at LUMCON, and we're currently recruiting another assistant professor as well as an associate director of science. And we have another faculty member starting at the end of the year. We have a really unique education and outreach program that is really focused on trying to give place-based experiential learning experiences to all that want them. Our programs are very unique in higher education. In fact, our programs really run from pre-K to grade. So we have pre-K to 12 programs, we have university programs, and then we have a lot of public and community engagement programs as well. I mentioned we have the vessel and dive operations. My guess is that the doctor, I always say that I'm not the real doctor, like ones that practice medicine are real doctors, so we kind of have this opposite view of how these things work. But the RV Pelican has been in operation since 1986. It's approaching its 40-year life. Let's see here if I can if this actually works or not. So the RV Acadiana is our 58-foot research vessel, and then we have a fleet of 11 small boats. Actually, number 12 is on the way, should be here next month, to service what the needs are of not just the researchers at LUMCON, but all of the consortium members and outside people that want to come and do research. We're expanding our research vessel capacity. The National Science Foundation is building 3 199-foot research class research vessels in Homa at Bollinger. The first one is going to Oregon State for the West Coast. The second one's going to University of Rhode Island for the Atlantic Coast. And the third one we are going to operate for the Gulf Coast in collaboration with the University of Southern Mississippi. The arrival dates of these ships keep slipping, but right now it's 2026 for getting the third one off the line. We also are replacing the Pelican as it approaches 40 years of age. We've actually just gone through the bid process and qualifications, and the shipyard has been identified. We're still in the contract stage, so come talk to me in a month or so and we can tell you who's actually going to build the ship. But until then, I can't. Now it's going to be a race to see which ship actually gets done sooner. We have a lot of facilities and resources. So down in Cocodrie, if you've been down there, you know the end of the road. LUMCON is this really unique building that looks like you have an aircraft radio control tower sticking up in the middle of the marsh. But our property also extends all the way to the Homa Navigation Canal. So we actually own wetland areas that people do research on. And we have a lot of facilities there. We also recently started expanding into Homa on property that was originally given to the community college system, and Fletcher operates a building right next door to us. We had the ribbon cutting for our Blue Works facility back in December. We're currently have a bulkhead and boat slip for the RCRVs that are being built right now. And we have the bid documents completed for a new Marine Operations Center on that campus as well. And I mentioned we have our affiliates, which is really, you know, our job is to sort of make sure that they are positioned to be successful. And then, of course, we're a community hub. I mean, we are on the coast. We are experiencing the challenges that all coastal regions happen as much as anybody else. The Marine Center in Cocodrie is outside the levee system. That poses challenges, but also presents a lot of opportunities to sort of study how one survives and continues to thrive under those conditions that can hopefully be beneficial to others in the state and in the world. We have these tremendous education outreach programs where we see pre-pandemic, I don't know what numbers are post-pandemic anymore, we're still kind of all recovering from all of that, because right after the pandemic, of course, we had Ida that did a lot of devastation to our facility and resources. But a typical year, we see about 4,000 K-12 students a year all the way down in Cocodrie. And so we're excited about what we can do to sort of expand that. We have a lot of K-12 programming that takes place down at the Marine Center, including in-person camps in residence for a week-long at a time in the summer, as well as a lot of programs throughout the school year. It's hard for me to read this from the side. So we have a bunch of teacher workshops too, because actually, you know, you can get a lot of students, but if you want to have the most impact on the broadest number of students, if you can get teachers engaged and teach them how to do things that they can bring back to the classroom, that is a great resource to have. So that's a place where we focus. And then we have a lot of university programs, including in residential programs over the course of the summer, geared to different stages of students. And then general public. We have lots of visits that are there. We just recently had an open house, first time since before the pandemic, down at the Marine Center to remind people we're still there. Dr. Kloon was there, as well as maybe a few of you in the audience. And next year, our goal is to actually have our next open house actually at the Homa campus. But place is open to the public. You can come down and visit. If you want to come down and learn a bit more about things, please reach out to me. Always happy to show people about what it is that we have to offer. Our summers are particularly exciting times of year for us. We have lots of programs. This week we just launched our STEM prep program, which is geared towards early stage undergraduates and community college students, particularly ones that don't have a lot of science background, where they are here for a 6-week internship. And next week we have a National Science Foundation sponsored research experience for undergraduate program that runs for 10 weeks. The Homa campus provides a lot of new opportunities to us. One, we're right on the same campus as the community college system. We're also, instead of being all the way down in Cocodrie, there's a middle school that's a mile down the road and a high school that's a mile further up the road. And so it provides us with opportunities to reach the public a lot more. A lot of people, even in Homa, don't know that we exist down in Cocodrie, let alone all of you here in St. Mary. So we can do a lot of adult education programs that are at this new facility. We can do a lot of K-12 programs. We're launching summer camps that are day camps. They don't have to be in residence. You only have to get them to Homa. We can deal with moving them around. We're also launching an after-school program this fall. And there are a lot of homeschool students in this state. And the hardest thing to teach at homeschool is science. You just don't have the resources for that, so developing curricula and programs for people to come and do their homeschooling science programs. So we're really excited about what these new opportunities will provide us for. We have a lot of new facilities. We've got a lot of upgrades to the facilities that we do have already, and we're moving forward with those. And actually, I have a bunch of these here that people are welcome to take afterwards. I can put them here. But have a strategic plan framework document. Nobody likes strategic plans, right? There are all these tables and everything else that are difficult. But there's also a real opportunity if you do this in sort of a framework document that sort of overlays and talks about some of the different ways that we do things. And so what we've kind of laid out here are some broad overarching goals that are focused on the different components of LUMCON. So the institution goal is to position LUMCON as a hub for coastal marine science research, education, community engagement, and local, state, regional, and national levels. Our consortium goal is to expand and strengthen the active collaboration among consortium member institutions, faculty, and students. This is something we're really working on a lot the last few years. The last 2 years we've held, which I think were the first 2 ever state of the LUMCON consortium meetings, where we've had about 30 different institutions of higher education all come together and sort of talk about collective goals and priorities and how we can help each other. The research and science goal is to lead and coordinate the development of new approaches to science to better understand, manage, and protect Louisiana's fragile coastal and marine habitats. The education outreach goal is to recruit, educate, and mentor the next generation of scientists and learners and engage communities through traditional and non-traditional programs and partnerships. Facilities and resources. Our location is directly on the coast, and we want to build and maintain an adaptive infrastructure and workforce that provides opportunities, facilities, and resources to study shifting coastal and marine environments and communities that live and work there. Behind. Vessel and dive operations, where we talked about the expansion of our facilities, but also to make sure that we're providing the vessels and different types of boats that people need. And then we have our affiliates, and as the state partner, our job is to administer and support these programs so that they meet their missions and goals. And then we have some longer term goals and strategies, which in the instance of time, I will kind of skip through, but if you're interested, they're on our webpage, and then also I have this program here as well. Wow, that's actually longer than I thought. So what most people, I think, probably want to hear about is the National Estuarine Research Reserve. But I think it's important to understand, why it is that, we were interested in playing a role in this. I mean, one is we do bring all the universities together as part of our consortium, which I think is important. For this to be successful, it needs to have engagement across the different universities. And then we have the experience working with BitNet and trying to see if we can facilitate those. And then we're also on the management conference for the Pontchartrain restoration program as well. And so we have these 4 national estuaries, and I think the more things that we can try to link and do together, we can actually help benefit all of these. So the selection of the National Estuarine Research Reserve for Louisiana has been a long ongoing process. It was originally launched with Sea Grant as the lead. And so the NOAA process was, first you need to basically request to get one. And in 2019, Governor Bell Edwards put the request formally into NOAA for Louisiana to get a National Estuarine Research Reserve. As I mentioned, Sea Grant was chosen to be the ones to sort of lead that selection process. I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. Right now, we're at sort of the draft management and environmental impact statement, and then we finalize that, and then we work towards the designation. I'll come back to this in a moment. So in the selection process, took a while after 2019. Of course, we had this little thing called the pandemic that sort of slowed down the process of how things work. That were pulled together about 90 different experts from around the state to try to identify what might be the most viable locations to have a National Estuarine Research Reserve. In the fall of 2020, that was down to these 3 areas, the Barataria region, the Atchafalaya, and Pontchartrain. And then in the spring of 21 through the spring of 22, or actually 2022, so we're not there yet. We got a little ways to go. We had a multi-stage phase process where we submitted a series of proposals and got a lot of feedback. And then we engaged in a series of town hall meetings, one of which was just down the street here in Morgan City, which it had so much attendance there. We were pulling chairs out of, I don't even know where you were pulling them from. It seemed like you must have had trucks come in to get the chairs, because we had more people at that meeting than at all of the other site visits combined. And so that support went a long way to the selection of the Atchafalaya being the choice. We submitted our final proposals in May of 2022, and then the selection of the Atchafalaya was determined. Oh yeah, we had to give presentations to the committee, and then the Atchafalaya Basin was chosen as the governor's selection in the summer of 2022. Later in the summer, it was deemed that the Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority would lead the formal nomination process. Not only did you have to have that selection, you had to fill in, submit this really long, elaborate nomination package, and that they would oversee the development of the management plan and the environmental impact statement. So it's been a long process. In the late fall of 22 and early in the spring of 23, CPRA organized a series of meetings, bringing in experts. Some people in this room were here. St. Mary Excel was part of that for some of the education and outreach sort of components, trying to figure out what it is that we wanted to have in the NERR. Last summer, the nomination was officially accepted by NOAA, and that Atchafalaya would be the choice. And Governor Bell Edwards released this statement about the importance of the Atchafalaya system and how excited Louisiana was to be that choice. These National Estuarine Research Reserves are, as you can see, all the blue maps. You see there's this one spot missing in the coastal zone. That's Louisiana. We are the last coastal state to get a National Estuarine Research Reserve. But it's this great network that it covers the entire coastline. Some states even have more than one of these, and we have not had one yet. So it misses out on a lot of opportunities and a lot of attention. And we were very honored. I was the leader of the proposal team for the Atchafalaya, and we wrote the proposal with the idea that LUMCON as this consortium would be an ideal host agency. And we were very honored that Governor Bell Edwards decided that that was a good idea. And so last summer, it was announced that we will be the host agency and state partner for the NERR, bringing together all of our partners in this process, which is what we think is something that we're really excited about. So that was last summer, and here we are almost a year later, and we're still not designated. So what's going on? So we're at this stage here of the draft environmental impact and management plan stage. So one of the things you have to recognize is that when the National Estuarine Resource Reserves were first started 35 years or so ago, most of the estuaries that were included in that were relatively small watersheds. They were tended to be areas that did not have a lot of working activities in them. They were not necessarily a working coast. So we have always been a working coast in Louisiana. We have lots of activities. We recognize the resources that are present in these estuaries. And that's not necessarily a problem, but it is a little bit different than where some of these things are. And so trying to get working CPRA with ourselves, working with NOAA, trying to come to an agreement about what can be in the core and buffer areas of the reserve is sort of where we've been at this sort of delayed process, and trying to understand and recognize that it is important. You know, there also are no large river deltas in the entire system, which makes this an incredibly important location that has most of the other NERRs very excited about it, because when they try to do these things at a national level, they're kind of missing that endpoint. You know, the discharge of the Atchafalaya River by itself under base flow is the 6th largest river in North America. At high flow, it's the 2nd highest compared to the Mississippi, right? So this is a massive river delta. There is nothing else like that. But we obviously have a lot of things that we do there. We have a long history of oil and gas exploration that's there. To maintain that navigation canal, we dredge, right? There are no large rivers of this size outside of a couple in the Arctic where there's no human activity, where there isn't dredging on a large river. But that creates a little bit of a challenge, not something that's insurmountable, but trying to get agreement upon what we can include in the core areas versus the buffer areas. So we've had a lot of back and forth. We're kind of at this stage with, you know, legal is really where we're at. So we're working through that. We just got some, after a call that CPRA and we had with NOAA and some of the NOAA leadership, we got some feedback on the last map that we had proposed, and we're looking for a little bit more clarification to try to understand, you know, how far away from a relic platform can you include in the core area? Because it's important that we include water habitats, fresh marsh habitats, salt marsh habitats to encompass all that we have in this region. So that's kind of where we're at in the process. We're hopeful that we'll be able to announce a lot more in the near future. I will say that we have a lot of support from our legislators that are our federal legislators that we have been meeting with and talking with, and are also engaging NOAA in these conversations, so that way we can hopefully expedite this process and be able to have sort of a defined boundaries in the next couple of months that we can then. You can't finalize environmental impact statement or a management plan if you don't have the boundaries of what it is that you're trying to have those plans for, right? So that's kind of where we're at. Those plans are, I would say, 90% done. So once we have the boundaries, it will take very little time to get to the point where we can have the draft, then those come out for public comment, and then we move forward at that point. So, you know, you're all familiar with this area. I'm going to move. I know it's going to create a problem here, but I'll try to speak loudly in the room. But one of the things about the NERRs is that it's all going to be on state land. means we're going to have one landowner, which is going to make it a lot less complicated than a lot of the other NERs where they may have 20 different landowners that they have to deal with. They're all going to be on lands that are owned and operated by LDWF. So we know for sure that you're going to have the two main river deltas. This is all part of this Chapalaya Delta Wildlife Management Area. We are going to be including Marsh Island because we need to have some salt marsh in there. There's going to have to be some of the water in between here. Fort Lee Bay is a nice option. The big problem with Fort Lee Bay is that none of this land around here is state-owned land. So you can't just use that as a salt marsh. Obviously, Morgan City is going to play a key, vital role in this. It doesn't come with tremendous amounts of money right off the bat to build a operations facility, but this is where the plan is, and we've been engaged with a lot of you here trying to already jumpstart that process. Ultimately, we want to have a headquarters that's based here in Morgan City, and we want to be able to have access, close to the water, so that way we can come down and access the different areas that are part of this reserve. Some of the particulars and the way these things work, it's a federal-state partnership, like I talked about at the beginning. That means in terms of base core funding, 70% of that funding is federal, and then 30% is the state match for that. Worked hard, and right now, everything's not finalized, of course, at the state level and where things are, but in my core budget for LUMCON, the state match is in there for this coming fiscal year. We just need to have the federal part to be able to do this and to get designated. One thing, and the other thing's advantage I mentioned are vessels. So until the NER is able to get their own vessels, our vessels are available to be used in this process. And we have, as you saw, a diversity of vessels to be able to help get people out there. Already got a lot of research and ideas on the types of vessels we want to have in the future. That's kind of where we're at in terms of how this will ultimately get structured. The NERs have a few core positions that are required. So there is a director, there is a research coordinator, there is an education coordinator, and then there's a training coordinator. So those four positions are the ones that are required. And then there's a lot of variability in how things are done. As soon as we get to the point where we get designation, we will put out the advertisement trying to recruit the director. I want the director to then be responsible for hiring the people that work with them, as opposed to trying to do that all at once. So hopefully in the coming months, we'll hear more about that. Yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. I mean, I was hoping that when we scheduled this several months ago, we would have like this map that's going to show you exactly where all the boundaries are and everything else. But we all know how some of these processes can sometimes take, not only do you have, Louisiana, you got the federal government, and then you got, multiple agencies that are involved in these processes. And then you've got legal involved in it too. So that's where we are. I mean, we're all very, very excited. And this is going to be, I think, the pillar for the entire NER system. I've been working in NERs since I did my graduate work back in 1996, I think was the first time I stepped foot in a NER. And so it's something that I have a lot of passion for, and I'm really happy that Louisiana is going to have it, and it's going to be based here in the Chapalaya with Morgan City as the headquarters. I will say that one thing in our new building in Houma, there's a dedicated office for the NER, just like I put a dedicated office for BitNet in there, so that there is a base of operations and they need to do something in other locations. I think one of the things that's also really important for these types of programs is to get out there and be present as many places as you can. The more places you can see the logo, get people to ask questions about it. One of our partners is the Chapalaya National Heritage Area. You all know on I-10 they've got a visitor center right there. Justin's very eager to have that be a place where we have things promoting the NER. We have our university partners. Dr. Kloon's in here from Nichols, talking to UL as well, LSU, all these parties are very interested in this, and I think it's by putting all of our resources together is how we're going to make this a real success moving forward. So with that, I'll take any questions if I have any time left.
Sure. Any questions?
Yes. Yeah.
Aware of what study that's beginning by the Corps of Engineers, 5-year study to investigate the possibility of more Mississippi water coming down the Atchafalaya, and that's because of the lawsuit to close the Bonnie Carey.
Yeah.
So will y'all be involved in that? Should you?
Should is a different question than will. I'm aware, engage in conversations and offer to provide support and expertise as needed. But, sometimes those decisions aren't made just figuring out whatever, there's things that go behind who's involved in some of those different studies. So, there's lots of different things that are going on in terms of water use within this state and the country and the Mississippi at large that we all have to pay attention to and be aware of because they all have impacts on what happens here. There are proposals to divert water to go to Texas, on the river. Last year there was a plan at the federal level, that was talking about trying to divert water across the Rockies into, the western U.S. Sorry, I moved on the microphone here. I think the more education and conversations that have, the more informed the decisions are that go into this process, and that's kind of where we need to be. So I think, when we hear about things, yes, we voice our opinions and try to get engaged in the conversation, and that's really about all that we can do at this particular stage.
Thank you, Dr. Roberts. We're very excited about this, and we're excited because the Atchafalaya River is right there, and we want everybody to know how to pronounce Atchafalaya. We hope that this will, send that message. But also, we have a teacher here, Leslie, Miss Smith. She took her students out with the Patterson High students. The week school let out, and it was the first time we'd ever actually had a field trip organized. The students went out and planted marsh grass outside of Burns Point. I think Sea Grant and some other organizations, the 4-H, they helped the students get out there. We had boats out there. It's all on social media. The pictures are there. The kids were so excited. They came back and said it was the best field trip they'd ever had, and we're hoping that these opportunities will present themselves when we have more presence here, too.
Right.
So,
well, that's clearly one of the main missions. There's research in the name, which is what differentiates it from some other types of programs, because it is important that there is a clear understanding about how these systems are changing over time and how they work and function. But education and outreach and commitment are a really big part of it, and that's also one of the reasons why, at LUMCON we were really interested in playing a role in this, because that sort of fits within our overall mission. So, we can sort of cross support some of these different efforts because they align with our overall missions to begin with. But yeah, that's exactly what we want to do. And I should say, I contemplated the last time you guys invited me to speak to your group. During the process, I sort of undid, and I had a shirt underneath. I almost did today, but I thought it was a little bit too much to do it twice for the same thing. But, I had the Friends of the Atchafalaya ANERR shirt. It was sitting there. It's sitting right out actually on my bed right now. It's because I contemplated doing the same thing again, but I didn't quite get there.
Yeah, next time.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Roberts. I would also like to recognize Dr. Monica Mancuso, Catherine Holcomb, and the board members of St. Mary Excel. They're doing such a great job and putting in so much work for us to hopefully receive this designation. I think we should give them a round of applause as well. Again, we want to thank you for joining us today and providing us with updates. Before we conclude, I will turn it over to our president, Beth Chasson, to provide you with a few updates and to close out.
Ooh,
Sorry.
it's okay. I know I'm the short one. First, thank you for attending, taking your time out to be here with us today and your continued support of the Chamber. Special thanks to our sponsors, our featured sponsors, CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, and of course our elite sponsors, Intermore, Bayou Bend Health System, and Omega Waste Management. And thank you, Dr. Roberts, for joining us today as well. As you exit, please take one of the summer camp listings that we've accumulated. These are the camps that we've been made aware of across the parish for children throughout the summer. There are a lot of great opportunities. Some have expenses, some are free. The age ranges, if available, were listed, and we've also provided that information on our Facebook page, which includes the flyers for most of the programs, so you can get a little bit more information. And if you want more information, reach out to those entities individually. Our 2024 scholarship recipients have been selected, and they will be notified this afternoon. 8 scholarships will be given for students across the parish. We are still graciously and anxiously accepting donations and sponsors for our annual education steak dinner and auction on June 20th. This event is what funds our scholarship program, so it's very important. We host it every year, and the auction is what funds the scholarships. Tickets to attend are available through next week. If you're interested, please contact our office. And I am happy to say we are beginning the process of working with the school board and local teachers to try to build on what Ms. Smith's students experienced and start a youth leadership program in St. Mary Parish that will be available to selected students at each high school and give them the opportunity to learn about local history, culture, the ecosystem, and more, just to open doors. I know she spoke on a few of her students. One had the opportunity to speak to the Coast Guard, and now that's what she's interested in doing, whereas before she didn't have the opportunity. Another wasn't aware that he could go to school for marine biology and get to work in Louisiana, where he's very invested in this area. Of course, it's home. So we're excited about that process getting started. And with that, I will let everyone leave. Like I said, grab that as you walk out, and please join us for our legislative breakfast at Bayou Bend Wellness Center next month with Senator Island, Representative Amity, and Representative St. Blanc as a post-legislative session update. That is all. Have a beautiful afternoon.